And now I'd like to introduce Felicia Washington, Senior Vice President for Human Resources at USC. Felicia provides the primary leadership on human resources for USC's nearly 28,000 faculty members, staff, and student workers. She will share her experience in executing transformational leadership during a global crisis.
We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour. But within it, we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. Hi, I'm Felicia Washington, and I'm honored to be here with you today. Amanda Gorman's poem was written about a horrific day, but I think it offers inspiration to any of us leading during a global crisis. You know, this time last year, I was prepared to join you in Seattle, but the world as we knew it quickly came to a halt, and rightly so, the conference was canceled to protect all of us. We have all had to pivot to work in a more digital and remote world, and we've grown accustomed. I can recall prior to the pandemic having as a goal, and I had that goal for a number of years, I was going to learn to be more green, get rid of the paper. Well, that happened overnight in March of 2020. This year, I'm glad to participate in USC's first ever virtual women's conference. And I'll tell you, even in this virtual platform, I can feel the positive energy bursting with creativity and innovation. And as someone who is relatively new to USC and not an alumna, I am honored to be included in this event. You know, to me, it really is a demonstration of the inclusive spirit that nurtures thriving together. So I thank you for the invitation, but did I have to follow an Olympian? Was my question when I saw the agenda. But seriously, it is meaningful to be a part of this exciting event during Women's History Month and with International Women's Day on Monday. And of course, today is Employee Appreciation Day. Well, so much has happened since March of 2020. What we thought would be a couple of weeks shutdown has turned into a year-long interruption of life as we knew it. Quite possibly, it's an alteration of life moving forward. Then, flash forward a few months to our country's heartbreak from the still never-ending counts of illness and death from COVID-19, to our heartbreaking over the killings of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and countless others by those in positions in which we have put our trust. We were also in an election year. I don't know about you, but I can't recall a more contentious time that we've had and that our employees have lived through. And these are just the wider societal macro effects. It's our personal stories. While united in the undercurrent of these events, they're unique, they impact each of us differently, but also our organizations differently. So then, how, with this as the backdrop of the past year, do I really approach describing the challenge of transformational leadership during a global crisis? Which crisis? What I'm going to do is break it into two parts and share a few words about transformational work and then leadership during a global crisis. Well, I was hired in 2019 to centralize HR operations across the university, going from independent HR departments to a consolidated operation. This vision for one HR community of practice function is to enable university objectives and values, elevate the employee experience, and deliver excellent service. What an opportunity to build world-class HR to support a world-class university. Well, the transformation, stated simply, is to take the necessary and important work of our concentrated silos and create breathable cylinders of excellence supported by university-wide strategy, approach, vision, and infrastructure. This transformation will support coordination and consistency in approach to people-related functions, care for our constituents' needs, and a reduction in people-related concerns, sharing of information, and it will allow all that is great at USC to take center stage by removing distractions, and it'll allow HR to work like an autonomic function in the background, reliable, foundational, and steady, so the organization can achieve its goals. Now, the challenges of transformational work, they're easy to imagine. Change is hard. In fact, this change is also culture change. Even with clear directives and evidence of the need for change, it can be difficult, right? When change actually impacts the way you do business. Then, of course, there's the natural resistance to change. Who wants to change? Sometimes it's open and loud, sometimes it's a lot more subtle and requires time and also care to really cultivate trusted partnerships. In early 2020, my role also expanded to include other people offices involved in addressing workplace concerns and compliance and culture. This was a natural expansion and tremendous opportunity during this time of the post-Me Too movement, when sex and gender-based harassment and retaliation are at the forefront of conversations and often falling squarely in the hands of HR professionals. So in a nutshell, that gives you a glimpse of the transformational project. Complexity to begin with, compounded by the hot button issues during a pandemic, and really bringing into stark focus the importance and opportunity for leadership. So as I think of leading during a global crisis, for me, staying focused on keeping our people going is key. We were already running beyond the speed limit as fast as we could to get things done. We were working in teams to identify the needs, creating the vision to guide the change, and planning the execution along with a committed team. And then the pandemic hit. And like everybody else, we had to figure out, how are we going to get this done? How are we going to continue? As the leader of the transformation, I had to figure out how to keep the progress going and to do it with a new set of considerations in mind. We went from face-to-face meetings to Zoom. We went from driving to work to living at work, is a term I've heard coined. We had and we still have to recognize that people and their families, they're undergoing really difficult challenges. Some are affected directly by COVID. All of this leading to an increase in stress and fear. So how do we keep going above the speed limit with this as the context? If I had a simple, straightforward answer, I'd write a book and retire at a reasonable age. But seriously, I don't think there's a a simple answer, but there is a priority. And I think that's caring for our people. We press on day to day and just try to balance being conscious of the personal demands that all of this is placing on our teams with the need to move the project forward. And you heard President Folt earlier. You know she wants results, and the university needs results. But at the same time, her message too is that we must do it with compassion, empathy, and understanding of what our folks are navigating. Our people are our priority. So how do we lead during these times? We keep our eye on the ball, talk to team members, listen to them, figure out how we can adapt. You know, It's a natural reaction to focus on a crisis as it is happening and specifically on how to get out of it. In doing so, sometimes we move too quickly, and it's easy to lose sight of what really is important. But through the highs, the lows, and the in-betweens in any organization, people are vital. They're the ones that keep it going. They're the ones who, even through the tough times, come together to move organizations forward. Even when leaders come and go, the people remain. So that focus on our people really guides my thoughts, actions, and words. I want respect and care to be visible, and I strive to ensure that folks feel valued. That's the goal. But I'm not perfect, and sometimes the very best of efforts do not land as intended. So how do I remain focused on this? I try to incorporate our university's unifying values of integrity, excellence, diversity, equity, and inclusion, well-being, open communication, and accountability. And I also know that words are extremely powerful and that the nuance of use can be harmful. So I always strive to convey the message in a way that it can be received as intended. Sometimes that effort makes the difference between an employee feeling like we've lifted them up or not. And, no matter what the role, we can't ignore the reality of what the global crisis is doing to our people and to us. Through the lens of my own experiences with parents, children, and grandchildren, I draw some insights. I have an 18-year-old son who is a freshman attending college in person at the University of Miami. While yes, he had the opportunity to choose to attend virtually, but he looked at me in May of last year and said, I'm not staying in LA, right? I'm going to Miami. Spring forward, I was FaceTiming him one Wednesday evening about 3 weeks ago and noticed there were 6 or so others in his dorm room. They were studying, I'm told. The next day, he called to tell me his roommate had been exposed to COVID-19. The next day, my son called to tell me that he too was moving to quarantine, but he didn't want me to think that he had been irresponsible. This is the kid whose contact name on my phone is still Mr. Not Yet Responsible. Because he'll get there, he's a great kid, kind, caring, but he's still got boy brain. Anyway, all of you know the answer to the question, was the study group wearing masks? Another reality that I worry about is my own parents, and I'm sure our employees are worrying about their own parents and loved ones. I do think it's because I can recognize the impact that these worries have on me personally. It helps me to be able to empathize more easily with others. But I want to share what I think is a secret weapon that all of us have as we navigate this. As leaders, we're keeping our eye on the ball, but we have to be even more intentional about recognizing that self-care is a powerful secret weapon. What we say to ourselves and having time to rejuvenate are vitally important. Some time ago, I read a letter from a well-known pastor, Dr. Paul David Tripp. He wrote, "No one is more influential in your life than you are, because no one talks to you more than you do." And you know it, we talk to ourselves as we're getting ready for the day. Sometimes it's all in our head, sometimes it's out loud, sometimes it's at the computer, in the car. But how many of us feel better coming out of these personal conversations? What helps me control the narrative of my conversations with myself, especially when trying to work through a worry, is to ask, what do I want the outcome to be? This forces me to think beyond the present to inform solutions for the future. Because in the present, I have a problem. In the future, I see the possibilities of what can be. Quick example. In May of last year, 2 months into the pandemic, when we were all facing challenges in every corner of our lives, the federal government issued new regulations of sweeping changes impacting sex and gender-based harassment, implementable in August. This was a challenge. So I looked ahead. I forced myself to look at what the future could be. And I'm so proud to say that today, and with input from the community who were working remotely, we have an omnibus discrimination, harassment, and retaliation policy that applies to all students, faculty, and staff. And we recruited and have with us one of the most experienced people in the country leading our EEOTIX Title IX office, Catherine Spear. I challenge you, next time you're having a conversation with yourself, make a conscious effort to give a try. Ask yourself, what outcome are you wanting? Are your words coming from a positive place? And do it enough times to make it a habit. And hopefully this will help you like it has helped me. And now finally, my best advice, and if you remember nothing else I've said, schedule a sleepover. Reflect on what makes you feel whole, and don't just say you'll make time for it, schedule the time for it. Possibly like yours, most of my family is still on our bubble, not my son, obviously, which gives me the opportunity to see my 3-year-old granddaughter and 11-month-old grandson. And I cannot tell you how much life and joy those 2 little ones have breathed into me. While tiring, scheduling sleepovers with Avery is so fulfilling. Our other children are tremendously jealous of the time we spend with their older brother and his family. As my granddaughter grows, we have been building a blossoming relationship, and I love making brownies with her and having weekend sleepovers and getting videos from her parents who are showcasing what I call as her spiciness. That time together is so special, and it fills my soul with joy. I even feel rejuvenated. I hope that you, whether through video chatting or another mechanism, allow yourself the time of self-care. The rejuvenation gives us energy to reflect humanity that is needed to lead during tough times. You know, in our ever-changing world, transformational leadership will continue to be important in leading organizations and teams forward. As I've shared, it takes passion, thoughtfulness, and care for self and others to do it well. I hope that while keeping your eye on the ball, you will talk to yourselves positively and schedule sleepovers. These are the things that bring hope and laughter and best prepare us to be the heirs of the hour. I thank you again for the opportunity to be here with you today. Be well, take care, and fight on.